The NBI has announced that it is preparing to subpoena Manila Bulletin tech editor Art Samaniego in connection with alleged hacking incidents involving private companies and government websites. NBI Deputy Spokesperson Attorney Sean Michael Dangilan said the subpoena is based on an extrajudicial confession made by an arrested IT officer from the Manila Bulletin. The IT officer claimed that he hacked the websites under Samaniego's direction. Samaniego has denied the allegations, asserting his long-standing partnership with government agencies in cybersecurity. The Manila Bulletin, on the other hand, stated that it has always adhered to the laws of the land and requires its employees to be law-abiding.
Tayo rin naman, interesado tayo kung talagang may participation or wala, o ano yung mga defenses na ipuput up nila. It's hard to fathom or hard to think na parang you would do this, your hacktivism, para lang ho, kasi ang allegation, no, para lang mauna siya sa scoop sa balita, you know, allegation. Eh. So that would be very, very irresponsible.
Still on hacking incidents, the DICT has confirmed that Jollibee's data has been found on the dark web. Paraiso said Jollibee's corporate head reached out to them regarding the hacking incident on their website. Cybersecurity group Deep Web Connect has also earlier alleged that hackers were selling the information of Jollibee's 32 million customers in forums for over $40 million. According to the National Privacy Commission, the data breach at Jollibee Group has affected 11 million data subjects across the conglomerate's brand.
Kanina lang, nag-usap na ho kami nung head ng isa sa mga corporate heads ho ng Jollibee.
Okay.
Kasi nangyari ho to Friday. Nagkaroon tayo ng report, finalo up ng DICT. Nakita naman ho natin sa dark web na talagang may mga datas from Jollibee na nandun na sa dark web. Contact numbers and addresses nandun ho. Kaninang umaga, ang Jollibee nag-reach out to help, to ask for help from DICT. In fact, last Friday, they made us, they made it known to DICT na nag-file na sila na report sa NPC, National Privacy Commission, because this particular incident involves data breach.
Let's discuss these matters further with DICT Undersecretary Jeffrey E&D, who joins us live in the studio. Good evening, Yusek. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Now, Yusek, hindi na po ko kunwari, pero sa totoo lang gulat na gulat kami dito sa aming newsroom because we used to have Art Samaniego guesting on our shows. Just a disclaimer on that. Probably not just us, but we were quite surprised over the news that came out in the weekend. I mean, what led to that expose, and what do we know?
Well, to be honest, I was with Art in Cybersecurity Week in Israel. It's a government event, and I think whatever it is that Art will have to face right now, that does not discount many things that he also did for the furtherance of cybersecurity in the country. That said, I've seen the discussions we've discussed this with the NBI, this case. I think the NBI has an airtight case against him, so I would advise that Art prepares for his defense.
What are the policies when it comes to vulnerability tests? Because yun nga, parang that is the cover for hacking, quote unquote, right?
Good question. And thank you for asking that, because there's a lot of hacktivists who think that what they're doing is harmless. Remember that there is a law against illegal access of computer devices. And there's also a law against intentional data breach, or trying to get data. Anytime you try to get personally identifiable data and release it to the public, that's already illegal. If you reshare it again, that's again illegal.
Okay, but Yusek, what if I was a company and I did ask some white hat hacker or anyone capable to do it? In that case, okay lang naman yun.
In that case, okay lang yun.
Basta malinaw.
May mga professional penetration testers talaga, and they earn a lot of money doing that. Pero ang magic word kasi doon, Sean, is that there is consent. There is actually a contract that you hired me.
Right. It's an actual business deal, the usual with makapal na kontrata, maraming pahina.
That's correct. And I actually, I would even advise companies to do that. Better have a controlled environment, someone professional, search for vulnerabilities in your own website, in your own online assets.
Okay,
before
I have
the others.
Kind of a silly question in relation to that. So kung ganun nga, no, why don't these hackers, like you said, it costs so much to hire someone to try to hack into your system professionally with consent. Are we overflowing with these kinds of people? Kasi kung ganon, ba't di na lang sila pumasok sa ganong klaseng racket?
I don't know what their motivations are. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin is that we need to delineate this kind of, kasi may ethical and unethical practices. The same with, the same with artists as well. No?
Yeah.
So an ethical practice is walang consent, tapos nag-hack ka, kahit vulnerability assessment. And although Art had a previous case na rin, no, with Inquirer 7
Right.
about this.
Yes.
So just an advice to anyone who's trying to do this in a controlled environment. There's also a bug bounty program. No, walang paalam, nag-hack ka, pero hindi mo disclose.
Okay.
Hindi mo pinublish. Sumulat ka dun sa kumpanya like,
Pwede yun?
pwede yun. Sulat mo sa kanya, by the way, I'm a legitimate security researcher. I found something. Pero this information is for you, not for the public.
But
not
that
for
can't be used
everybody else.
against you. I mean, because you're kind of being a good Samaritan in that case,
Well,
Libre.
right? Libre.
if I'm the company, I wouldn't do that. But it still can, no? Kasi wala kang paalam in the first place. But we've seen a lot of people do this. 95%, 99% of the time, they don't file cases against this person because that person helped them.
Okay.
So Yusek, it's mostly illegal if, yun nga, binibenta rin itong information
Lalo.
on the dark web.
Lalo.
Dark web is actually a scary place. I haven't been there. I haven't
I don't
tried
even know how to
visiting
go
it,
there.
right? But ayun nga, this information is available there. But what exactly can hackers do with that information ba?
So information is information, Pauline. No? Yeah, information can be weaponized. For example, how do you think scammers would know that when they text you a scam, they would also know your name? How would hackers know, or scammers would know, that you're actually a client of a particular bank? That you actually have a bank account with that? That's because your data was sold, and these scammers, which are usually syndicates, crime syndicates, have that information, they harvest that information, and they use that against you. That's what we call weaponization of the data.
Well, in this case, which websites were involved with Manila Bulletin's tech editor, Art Samaniego, and which years? Gaano katagal yung data na meron kayo against him, in your case against him?
So let me just clear, let me just clarify. Art Samaniego is allegedly being included by a revelation by someone alias Kangkong.
Right.
Okay. Now, si alias Kangkong had hacked banks. Siguro banggitin ko na rin because they should have made the public disclosure anyway. They have data on Security Bank, Philippine National Bank, BDO, Union Bank. They have user accounts, they have passwords.
Wow,
They also have
wow.
Facebook accounts of certain
They have
individuals.
access to bank accounts?
They have a list of the user accounts and passwords. We haven't tried
Passwords.
to access it to know if
Yeah.
they are
To
legitimate.
money accounts, bank
That's
accounts?
correct.
Oh
the
my
bank
gosh.
accounts, yeah. They also have Facebook accounts. They actually have information about the Bello Medical Group, including their clients. So,
That's extensive.
It's very random too. Banks, Bello, fast food chains.
yeah, because that's the modus operandi of Kangkong. According to him, Art asks him to scan the internet just to look for vulnerabilities, and if they find any, they go in.
But yun nga, which is pwedeng under good Samaritanism.
If they disclose to
If
the
they-
Except in this
company.
particular case, they published
Where? In the dark web?
No, they published as an article
as an article.
in the newspaper in Manila
that they
Bulletin.
found vulnerabilities.
Again, if the story is to be believed, again,
Okay.
if the allegation is to be believed,
Kumbaga ang kapalit is mauna sa scoop.
Mauna
Di ba
sa
yun ang allegation nung naaresto tawagin na natin siyang alias Kangkong.
Yes.
Yung pala yung official name niya. Okay. Yung mas concerning, Yusek, no, yung nangyari nung yung Comelec data breach. Because that one sobrang complete. If you think about all the data that you have turned over to the Comelec, it's like literally everything including your fingerprint.
Yeah.
Which is so scary. Your wet signature, of course, nung biometrics, diba? There was also some halabaloo, and in fact, I believe that same editor of Manila Bulletin, the tech editor, si Mr. Art Samaniego, was also dragged into that mess. But it was sort of resolved. If I'm not mistaken, nagkaroon ng Senate hearing.
Correct,
And ang lumalabas is, kumbaga, mas grabe yung nai-report niya sa dyaryo kaysa dun sa totoong, kumbaga, gravity ng breach. Can you confirm that?
well, I don't have that exact data about Comelec, no. But you know how it is. Sometimes mas malala nga yung nare-report because we sensationalize things. However, I don't think in this particular instance it was Art who actually ordered for the
that breach.
For that breach.
So walang sinabi si alias Kangkong?
Wala namang sinabi si alias Kangkong tungkol sa Comelec. We also have other suspects for Comelec.
That's right. We're so focused on this one, right? Because I guess for us, we all have spoken to Mr. Samaniego at length,
Yes.
multiple times,
Correct.
multiple times a year. He co-convened Scamwatch Philippines. He has that advocacy as well. What about the other two hackers? Were they also affiliated with this, or magkakaibang, kumbaga hindi sila related at all? Itong
okay.
tatlong na aresto.
So it was believed, again, allegations. Siya nga pala, I would like to commend NBI for doing all of this.
Yeah.
So it is believed that they form a collective. They're part of they are former members of LulSec. And LulSec actually came from Anon Philippines or Anonymous Philippines. So these are hacking collectives. So magkakakilala sila, at least by their handles.
Okay.
Ngayon,
So pag may online grouping sila, ganyan.
That's correct. Tapos nagkita-kita sila, and we have to, this is not only digital forensics, but also human intelligence. Nagkita-kita sila because of the operation of NBI. They tried to find a way na magkita-kita yung tatlo, and then they arrested the three. It just so happened that the others were, isa lang talaga yung minamanmanan, yung dalawa na.
This is a huge breakthrough. Maybe after everything that we've reported on the news, yung mga scammers na hindi natin mahuli-huli. I mean,
Yes.
Pero ang tanong is, these people, there's been a huge spate of
That's
hacking,
correct, yes.
breaching incidents. Would you guys have any idea over at the DICT, in connection, of course, with NBI Cybercrime, et cetera, all the other agencies working on it, USEC, kumbaga, are these people all part of that hacking group, the hacking collective?
So thanks for that question.
Including the Jollibee, yung
They're not
pinakabago.
necessarily part of that hacking collective, but they usually have a communication channel that communicates with each other. No, some think that they are activists. There's, for example, where we're looking for one suspect, PH1NS, who's responsible for DOST, who's responsible for PNP, who's also responsible for some other, even the private sector attacks. So we're continuously building our case. It's really hard to.
And sometimes it can take years. Some of these cases are years.
well,
You have
there have been allegations na galing pa sa China, yung mga hacks.
There was one last February where our government mail exchange system was attempted, and we attributed that to APT, or Advanced Persistent Threat Group 41, which are known to be Chinese Chinese APTs.
Yusek, just going back to dun sa dark web, no? How did the DICT become aware na yung Jollibee data nga was in the dark web?
So we have sensors. We have scanners that scan everything from the surface web to the dark web. Nakita yon. Plus, pinublish ni Dark Web Connect, no, which is another. May mga alias din sila, no? We have suspects who they really are, but we don't. Suspects pa lang. But after that, ang maganda naman, Jollibee did inform NPC. Because remember, this is also a reminder. If you have a data breach, you are mandated by law to report within 48 hours that you had a data breach. That's first. And then second, you are mandated by law to inform all people that was included there. In this case, it's sabi ni Jollibee, 11 million. They should inform that individually. Each and every
But
one of
they
them.
did ask USEC for a 20 days extension. Do we know why they need an extra 20 days? For, I think they said, internal investigation.
Well, I guess it's 11 million is still a very, it's very extensive.
Yusek, how can people protect their data? I mean, it has been brought up na change your passwords regularly, diba? Or
Two-factor authentication.
two-factor, yan, mga OTPs. But, diba, how...
There are some information, let's delineate the type of information you have. There are some information which, if you have a human-to-human interaction, you should never, ever give out. Example, the back of your credit card. At the back of your credit card, there's a 3-digit code that's called a CVV or CVC, depending kung anong klaseng credit card mo. You're not supposed to give that to a person-to-person transaction. If somebody calls you and asks for your 3-digit code at the back of your credit card or your ATM card, never.
Okay.
The same with your OTP. Yung pinapadala sa text mo na code, never give it out. If it's a human-to-human interaction, somebody called you up and said, oh, by the way, I would like to verify who you are by sending you a code. Can you give me what the code is? Don't give it.
There are some instances where you have no control. For example, as you mentioned, the bank account details were hacked and gotten by these hackers. Paano naman yun? Anong laban? I mean, una-una na-inform ba ng mga bangko na
Very
binanggit
good
nyo kanina,
question.
yung mga customers nila? And as a bank customer, should I change my passwords every month, every so often?
To be
How
fair,
often?
to be fair naman, the bank does prompt you to change your password, but there's also a button where you
hindi-
can waive it.
hindi- oo.
Parang every 3 months pa siya.
Every 3
There are
months.
certain banks that require you to change it every 3 months.
Or some
Pero yung
that
iba-
will remind you, then you
yung iba,
can waive it.
oh.
That's a good question, Gretchen. So these things, no, itong nahuli natin, they did this back in 2019 to 2021. So there's a good chance that you already changed your password, unless you keep reusing your old password back in 2019 to 2021. That could be a problem. But right now, I think, alam niyo may audit features lahat ng mga bank. It's a BSP requirement that all bank online sites actually have an audit mechanism where we can check kailan ba ako last nag-login, and then we regularly check it, and then if there seems to be a suspicious activity there,
Ibabalik naman sa'yo yung pera ng
medyo
mother
ibang
bank.
usapan pa yun, ha? Pero pag may nakita ka na suspicious login, change ka na muna ng password, you know.
So always change your
Pero
password.
insured ba kami? Yun talaga. Mamaya tatanong natin.
Ibabalik ba yung pera?
Susunod
I
natin.
think that's a better question for our next guest. No? Pero just to wrap everything up, Yusek, ano ba talaga? Where do we stand right now with these arrests, this current arrests? Are there more forthcoming?
Yes.
Meron pa ba kayong ibang minamanmanan? And once nahuli na tong mga, kumbaga, nasa top nung suspected list natin, can we expect na babawas na tong mga incidents? Or is that just wishful thinking? Kasi kaya parang habulan to.
And are we getting better at catching
We're getting
these
better.
hackers?
That's definitely happening. Are we at par with our regional counterparts? Maybe not yet, but we are getting there. Yes. Siguro kayo lang nag-interview sa akin, sinabi ko, yes, we're also casing additional individuals. Not only with the NBI, but the Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group. They also are casing a group of people that are responsible for the recent hackings. Remember that PNP FEO was a very large data breach, and so they have a personal stake here, no? And they're casing.
With the Jollibee data breach, what information?
So that's
What's
I think it's early days yet, but do we know anything about that?
Yeah. Well, it's ang sabi nila is customer accounts, user accounts. We're still checking it. The problem naman with the private sector is that they do not have any mandatory reporting mechanism to us. So if they want us to help them, they'll ask us. Unlike
gonna push
government,
for
kasi
that?
we have. Yes, we filed the cyber security law in Congress. And it's similar to all other countries. No? We have to have the correct statistics for hacking because the public needs to be informed.
Is that going to pass?
I think so. We have the commitment of Congress, but I will. I pray to the gods of Congress.
We are with you there. Kasi ang hirap mag-memorize ng maraming password.
Just as we said, this is a huge milestone, I think, for our crackdown on these hackers. Exposing their identities, I'm sure, would scare off those who are attempting, and we do hope for more success on that. And something that we have clear now, yung may ethical, unethical na hacking.
You can use your talents for good or for bad. Ang choice ay nasa sayo. You can earn money both ways.
On that note, maraming salamat for joining us tonight. We have the ICT Undersecretary not Ivan Januin, Jeffrey Ian D.